The unseen threat. The dark expanse of space stretched endlessly around the small human vessel horizon. Captain Mark Hale stood on the bridge, eyes fixed on the display screen. Ahead lay the vast armada, hundreds of alien warships glinting like a field of deadly stars. To most races, the armada was unbeatable. To Mark, it was a challenge he was born to face. Mark felt the soft hum of the engines beneath his boots. Around him, the rest of his crew moved with quiet purpose. First Officer Eva Ross checked the navigation console, her brow furrowed. Navigator Leo Grant tapped coordinates into the helm, hands steady despite the tension in the air. In engineering, Tom May and Riley Ortiz worked side by side, monitoring power levels and rerouting energy to the defensive shields. No one on the horizon spoke. The bridge lights were dimmed, casting long shadows across consoles and crew. Even the usual background, chatter of status reports, was replaced by the low pulse of the ship's core. Every heartbeat felt as loud as a drum in Mark's ears. He knew this mission was their only hope. Several hours earlier, the Earth Council had given its final orders. The galaxy's most fearsome fleet was sweeping systems far from human space, crushing any world that dared stand in its path. Bruto said that once the Armada set its eyes on a target, no force could stop it. Every military command in the galaxy had fallen. Earth's allies were gone. Fear spread faster than light in the wake of the Armada's advance. But on Horizon's holomap, a single red dot pulsed defiantly beside the Armada's columns. Earth. Mark took a slow breath. He remembered the Council's words. You carry our last chance. Stealth is your shield. Surprise will be your sword. Horizon had been built for speed and secrecy, not direct combat. Its plasteel hull absorbed scans and its engines whispered through space. Only one question remained. Could a lone human ship break the Armada's ranks? Eva looked up. Captain, we are at strike range. Target protocols are ready. Mark nodded. How many vessels? 276, Leo answered without turning from his station. His finger hovered over the execute command, 276 ships, each one bristling with weapons that could vaporize the horizon in seconds. The odds were unthinkable, but Mark's green eyes burned with determination. He remembered stories of human courage, of people who faced impossible odds and prevailed. This was their moment. Proceed, Mark said softly. On the view screen, the Armada's lead ship, a towering dreadnought twice the size of Horizon, sent a pulse of scanning beams. Horizon's hull swallowed the scan, leaving only a ripple in the data. Mark exhaled. They remained hidden, a ghost slipping through enemy lines. In engineering, Tom's voice crackled over the comm. Shields at optimal. Energy reserves are holding steady. Good work, Mark replied. Eva's eyes flicked to her console. Message coming through, sir. It's Admiral Caldwell of the Armada. A distorted hologram appeared, showing a tall alien figure with pale skin and glowing violet eyes. His uniform bore the Armada's insignia, a black sun eclipsing a red star. Caldwell's voice echoed in the bridge. Humans, he intoned, every word dripping with contempt. You, send one frail vessel to challenge our might. We shall crush you and claim your world. Mark stood straighter. He felt the weight of every soul on Earth pressing on his shoulders. Admiral Caldwell, he replied, voice calm. This is not a challenge. It is a warning. Turn back now, or you will learn the price of underestimating humanity. Silence fell. Then Caldwell sneered. Humans hold no power here. We will show you true strength. He cut the transmission. The bridge lights flickered briefly as the Armada's fleet powered up its weapons. Leo's hands trembled as he targeted the nearest enemy ship. Sir, weapon lock in 10 seconds, he warned. Mark glanced at the timer. 10 seconds. 10 seconds until every beam of energy turned the horizon into stardust. Then inspiration struck him. A plan formed in his mind. Risky, daring, almost insane. Eva, he said, voice steady. Prepare the diversion. Leo, stand by. On my mark. Outside the viewport, the Armada's ships began to converge on Horizon's position. Mark tapped the communicator. Engineering. Full power to the prototype drive. I want a jump signature in 3. In engineering, Tom's EU voice shot back. We're exceeding safe thresholds, Captain. This could fry our core. Mark cut in. Do it, we don't have a choice. Lights on the bridge dimmed further as power surged from the reactors. Crew members braced themselves. The hull vibrated. As energy funneled into the prototype drive, a top-secret engine designed for rapid, short-range jumps. The crew had trained months for this moment. Now or never. Mark to all hands, he announced over the intercom. Ready to fire on my command. Ava's fingers hovered over the console. Leo's hand paused on the execute button. Engineering's hum rose to a roar. 3, 2. Suddenly, the bridge shuddered. A blinding flash of light filled the viewports as Horizon leaped out of normal space. In that instant, the first energy beams from the Armada slammed into empty air where Horizon had been moments before. Then the Horizon reappeared behind the lead dreadnought, weapons primed. Open fire! Mark shouted. Lasers and plasma cannons roared to life from Horizon's hidden turrets. The first shot found its mark, slicing through the dreadnought's shield. The crew held their breath. This was only the beginning. And in the depths of space, the unbeatable Armada met its first true enemy. Word count, approximately $770. Striking the first blow, the Horizon's sudden reappearance left the Armada reeling. Captain Mark Hale steadied himself as the ship's weapon systems hummed with renewed energy. Across the bridge, Eva Ross smiled grimly. Direct hit on the dreadnought's forward shield, she reported. Hull breach imminent. Behind them, Leo Grant monitored the targeting computer. I've locked onto the engine core, he said. One more shot and we cripple them. Mark didn't hesitate. Fire. A green-blue beam leapt from Horizon's main cannon, slamming into the dreadnought's flank. The massive warship shuddered, sparks of energy flaring across its armor. Alarms blared as the dreadnought's shields collapsed. In the distance, smaller frigates began to change course, scrambling to respond. They're activating countermeasures, Eva warned. Fighter, squadrons launching in 5 seconds. Mark clenched his jaw. Hold position, we draw them in. In engineering, Tom May and Riley Ortiz watched the power output climb. We're holding at 80%, Tom said. But we're draining reserves fast. Riley tapped her console. Reactor heat is rising. We need to fall back or risk a meltdown. Back on the bridge, Leo called out. Enemy fighters incoming, 22 bogies on intercept. Small blips raced toward Horizon, eager to exploit its lone status. Mark's mind raced. The mission was not simply to damage one ship, but to trigger doubt in the Armada's ranks. If they believed the Horizon was a decoy or trick, they might hesitate. Hesitation was victory. Eva, lock turret arrays and target incoming fighters, Mark ordered. Leo, plot an evasive course that we can loop back on. I want them chasing shadows. Eva's fingers danced over her console. Turrets hot in 3, 2, 1. Tiny pulse cannons on the Horizon's hull flared, sending streams of energy twisting through space. Several fighters disintegrated before they closed the distance. Others veered off, disrupted by the unexpected fire. Evasive course plotted, Leo said, turning 90 degrees starboard in 5. Mark nodded. Do it. The Horizon rolled crisply, pulling the fighters into its wake. Behind them, the crippled dreadnought writhed, its remaining guns struggling to bear on the nimble human ship. Engineering to bridge, Tom's voice crackled. I can't hold this much longer. Core temperature is critical. Mark's heart pounded. They had minutes, maybe seconds, before the reactor went unstable. But those seconds were all they needed. Hold together, he muttered. Turning to Leo, he said, When I give the word, we jump to the second target cluster. Understood, Leo replied, sweat glistening on his forehead. Outside, the Armada's remaining ships formed a tighter formation, their dreadnought commander dispatching new orders. 1,000 turbolasers lit up, converging on the Horizon's last known position. Now! Mark shouted. In the blink of an eye, the Horizon vanished again. The Armada's beams missed by kilometers, slicing empty space where the ship had been, moments before. A heartbeat later, Horizon reformed amid a squadron of assault frigates. The engines flared, sending a shockwave through the water-like vacuum. "Fire at will," Mark roared. Missiles streaked from hidden launchers, tearing into frigate hulls. Plasma bolts followed, shredding armor and sending debris spinning. 3 frigates exploded in a cascade of light. Ava's face lit up. 2 down, 1 critical. But even as they celebrated, the bridge shook violently. The reactor's overload warning blared, red lights flashed across every panel. "Captain, we've reached critical," Riley's voice screamed in Mark's ear. "We must jump out now or we're all dead." Mark glanced at Leo, whose eyes were wide with fear. He knew that if they fled, the Armada would recover and chase them down. Yet if they stayed, the Horizon would tear itself apart. He took a breath. "Prep for one final jump," he ordered. "Aim for the Armada's command ship." Leo hesitated. "The command ship is 3 light minutes away." "That's why it'll never see us coming," Mark replied. Eva keyed in the coordinates. "Drive online in 10 seconds. Tom gritted his teeth. "Systems barely holding." "Do it," Mark said. The crew braced themselves as the Horizon trembled. Energy pulsed through the prototype drive. Outside the viewport, the burning wreckage of frigates drifted past. Then the shockwave hit. The ship snapped out of real space once more. When the light faded, the Horizon hovered above the largest vessel in the Armada, the command ship, its dark hull scarred by recent battle. "Mark, we're over target," Leo whispered. Mark's voice was cold steel. "Fire everything." Beams and torpedoes roared from Horizon's guns. The command ship's shields flickered and died. Explosions rippled across its surface. On the bridge of the command ship, alarms blared as the alien admiral scrambled to regain control. But it was too late. Down on Horizon, as the command vessel broke apart, the crew exchanged glances of triumph and relief. They had struck a mortal blow, and in that moment, the human ship showed the galaxy that the unbeatable Armada was fallible. End of Part 2. The turning tide, as the Horizon slipped away from the ruined command ship, alarms still blaring, Captain Mark Hale allowed himself a small nod. Behind him, Eva Ross let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Leo Grant sank into his chair, staring at the bridge view screen as the last fragments of the Armada's flagship drifted into darkness. In engineering, Tom May and Riley Ortiz exchanged relieved smiles. "We survived," Tom said, wiping sweat from his brow. Riley tapped the console. "Reactor levels are dropping back to safe. We can make it home." Mark spoke over the intercom, voice steady. "All hands, status report." Eva replied first. "Weapons and shields at 80%. Hull integrity intact. We can still make repairs in flight." Leo added, "Navigation systems online. Course set for Earth." "Good," Mark said. "Prepare for jump in 3, 2, 1. With a familiar flash, the Horizon vanished from the wreck field and reappeared in open space. The crew allowed themselves a moment of silence. Far from home, the ripples of their attack were already spreading. Back on Earth, the news feed had lit up with reports of an unknown human vessel striking deep into Armada territory. For the first time, other races dared whisper that the Armada might not be unstoppable. On board the Horizon, Eva brought up a holo map of nearby star systems. "Captain, I'm detecting multiple distress signals from systems the Armada just left. Independent worlds are sending help requests and—" A new ping cut her off. Leo leaned forward. "Council beacon response. The Andari Republic wants to open comms." The Andari were one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations, known for their honor and advanced technology. They had remained neutral when the Armada first swept through the stars. If they entered the fight on humanity's side, it could change everything. Mark's heart pounded. On screen, a tall Andari envoy appeared, blue-skinned and calm. His eyes glowed softly in the bridge's dim light. "Captain Hale," he said, voice rich and measured. "Your actions have shown us what we feared was impossible. The Armada can be hurt. We stand with Earth." Ava let out a cheer. Tom high-fived Riley. Mark allowed himself a rare smile before replying. "Thank you, Envoy Salvaris. Earth welcomes your alliance. Together, we will drive the Armada back." Salvaris inclined his head. "We will join your next engagement. Send coordinates and we will meet you there." As the transmission closed, Leo updated the map. Andari fleet en route. Estimated arrival in 2 days. Mark turned to his crew. "This is just the beginning. We proved a human ship can cut through the Armada's lines. Now we give hope to every world under their shadow." Eva tapped her console. More races are responding. The Tovan Collective, the Mirani Syndicate. They all want to aid Earth. Riley raised an eyebrow. "That's nearly 50 new fleets. The Armada's front line will crumble under that pressure." Mark nodded. "Our mission changes. We must deliver this news to Earth and then return to lead the coalition." Leo looked grave. "Their Admiral Caldwell will not stand by. He'll hunt us down." "Let him try," Mark said, voice firm. "We're not alone anymore." In the hangar bay, the crew prepared for maintenance and resupply. Pilots checked modified fighters, once designed for stealth, now refitted for combat alongside Andari ships. Engineers loaded fusion torpedoes, and medics stood ready for wounded diplomats. As the horizon coasted toward Earth's jump point, Mark paused at the hangar door. He looked back at the crew bustling with purpose. Eva, Leo, Tom, Riley, all of them had risked everything to prove humanity's strength. He thought of Earth's blue-green marble hanging like a jewel in the void, still untouched by the Armada's wrath. He thought of families waiting for news, of children dreaming of heroes among the stars. A low hum signaled their arrival at the jump gate. The crew snapped to attention as the horizon aligned with the glowing ring of quantum light. "Jump in 3, Mark announced. 2, Leo counted. 1. The ship leapt across light years in an instant. On the other side, the Earth system glowed brightly ahead. Welcome beacons and celebrations were already forming in orbit. Horizon's approach would ignite the spark of rebellion galaxy-wide, and for the first time, the unbeatable Armada faced its greatest threat. United worlds inspired by the courage of one human ship. The Council's crucible. When the horizon emerged from the jump gate, the sight that greeted Captain Mark Hale was as breathtaking as it was daunting. A flotilla of Allied ships, Andari frigates, Tovan cruisers, Mirani corvettes, danced in precise formation around Earth's orbital ring. Below, the planet's cities gleamed like a sea of lights, hope shining in every window. Mark guided the ship toward the central command station, a massive cylindrical platform bristling with antennas and docking bays. In the hangar, Eva Ross waved to welcoming officers from each Allied race. Their armor bore new Earth Coalition insignias, 3 interlocking rings under a star. Engineers and diplomats bustled about, their voices rising in a chorus of unfamiliar tongues and eager greetings. Inside the command council chamber, Mark took his seat at the long hollow table. To his right sat Admiral Salvaris of Andari, regal and calm. To his left, Ambassador Kira Tal of the Tovan Collective hovered in her repulsor chair, eyes bright with determination. Behind them stood representatives from half a dozen worlds, each bearing stories of Armada cruelty. Earth's lead envoy, Ambassador Renee Vargas, opened the session. "Today we build our plan to drive back the Armada. Captain Hale's strike showed us the way. Now we must decide our next move." Her voice echoed in the high-ceilinged chamber. Leo Grant projected a 3-dimensional map of the Armada's fleet movements. "They have regrouped beyond the Orion sector," he explained. "Admiral Caldwell is consolidating forces for a counterattack. If we strike there, we cut their line of supply." A murmur ran through the council. Ambassador Tal leaned forward. "The Orion sector jump gates are heavily defended. Losses could be high." Eva Ross tapped a secondary display. "We can deploy stealth bombers to disable the outer defenses. Then our main fleet can slip through." Riley Ortiz added, "Our prototype drive can make surprise jumps. Horizon and a small strike team could go in first to clear a path." Silence fell as every delegate weighed the risks. Finally, Admiral Salvaris spoke. "This plan carries danger, but the element of surprise is our greatest advantage. I support it, One by one, the others nodded. When Rene Vargas looked at Mark, he felt the weight of their trust. "Very well," he said. "We strike at dawn." As the meeting closed, Leo lingered. "Captain, we need time to refit the horizon for another jump." Mark nodded. "Make it quick. Tomorrow we lead the assault." That night, the crew worked feverishly. In engineering, Tom May recalibrated the drive under Riley's watchful eye. In the hangar, Eva coordinated with Andari technicians to arm Horizon stealth bombers. Leo studied enemy schematics, plotting multiple jump routes in case of failure. Late in the evening, Mark stood alone on the bridge, staring at Earth's curve through the viewport. His reflection wavered against the fading blue glow. He thought of every life depending on their success. Friends, strangers, even enemies whose plight they had come to share. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. Eva's voice came over the comm. "Captain, you should see this." On the view screen, a coded transmission flickered to life. It was Admiral Caldwell. His image was distorted, but his sneer was clear. "You think your puny coalition can stand? One by one, your allies will fall. Humanity will learn what it means to face true power." Mark's jaw clenched. "Admiral, you fear us because you know you cannot win." Caldwell laughed, the sound cruel and echoing. "We will see, human. We will see." Then the feed cut off. Mark stood quietly. The threat was direct, a challenge to everything they had built. But in his chest, a fierce pride burned. "Tomorrow," he whispered, "we show him what unity can do." And as the Horizon's engines hummed into readiness, the coalition prepared to light the fires of rebellion across the stars. Into the lion's den before dawn's first light, the Horizon slipped out of the orbital hangar on stealth drive. Captain Mark Hale stood at the viewport as the ship coasted toward the Orion jump gate. The massive ring loomed ahead, its golden arches bristling with turrets and sensor arrays. Beyond it, the Armada's supply lines pulsed like a heartbeat. In the strike bay, Eva Ross and 5 stealth bomber pilots checked their gear. Each was cloaked in a light stealth suit, their faces set with determination. Leo Grant joined them, carrying data modules that mapped the gate's defenses. "Remember," Mark's voice crackled over their comlinks, "we slip in, disable the shield emitters, and get out. No heroics, just a clean strike." The pilots nodded. Riley Ortiz monitored the Horizon's power levels from engineering. Tom May hovered nearby, ready to reroute extra energy the moment the stealth drive engaged. At Mark's command, the Horizon slowed to a crawl. Within transmission shadows, the ship's stealth field shimmered and then vanished from all scanners. The Armada's outer patrols drifted past, unaware of the human vessel inches away. "Bombers launched," Eva whispered as small fighters drifted out of the bay and fell toward the gate. Horizon powered down its engines, blending into the void. Above, the jump gate, the 5 bombers slipped through gaps in the turret fire. The first bomber, piloted by Lieutenant Mira Shaw, dropped a directional EMP charge on the northern emitter. A pulse of blue light swept across the arch, and 1/4 of the shields winked out. "Shield 1 down," Mira reported. "Next, Lieutenant." Aaron Bell navigated through a lattice of energy beams, his bomber's stealth field flickering under fire. He dropped his charge on the eastern emitter. Sparks and crackles ran along the gate's supports. "2 down," Aaron said, voice tense. But on the third run, Lieutenant Dana Cruz nearly collided with a guard frigate. Heavy turbo laser fire scored her bomber's hull. She spiraled out of control, her charge falling harmlessly into space. "Dana down!" Eva shouted. "We lost her." Mark's heart clenched. "Stay on mission. Spare no time for rescue." Leo's voice cut in. "Captain, 1 emitter left, but the gate is going dark in 3 minutes." Riley's tone was urgent. "We need to hurry or the main fleet can't jump through." Mark nodded. "Eva, take the last charge yourself." Eva's eyes shone with resolve. She vaulted into her bomber and barreled toward the southern emitter. Warning beams lanced around her, but she weaved through them. At the last second, she dropped the EMP charge and banked hard, the blast burning past her cockpit. Emitter 3 disabled, Eva cheered. Behind her, the gate's turrets fell silent, their targeting computers fried. The shield field vanished. In a ripple of light. Fleet jump ready, Leo confirmed. They're coming through now. On cue, a line of Allied ships blinked into real space on the far side of the gate. Andari cruisers, Tovan destroyers, Mirani frigates, and the horizon itself. They streamed forward, weapons hot, toward the surprised Armada fleet. But as the coalition advanced, a bright beam traced through space and struck the horizon's stern. The ship shuddered violently. "Hit!" Tom shouted over the comm. "We've got a breach in engineering." Riley's voice quavered. "Reactor coolant leaking." Mark steadied himself on the console. "Status?" Eva replied. "We're taking fire from the command frigates. They knew this was coming." Leo's face turned pale. "Admiral Caldwell's personal guard ship is here. They locked us on first." Mark took a breath. "Hold the line. Riley, isolate the leak. Tom, reroute. Power from non-essentials to life support." Below, alarms blared. Sparks flew across bulkheads, but above, the coalition fleet pressed the attack, laying down barrages of torpedoes and ion salvos. In the chaos, Mark saw something he never thought possible. The Armada's ships breaking. Formation, confused by the sudden onslaught. A battered dreadnought drifted sideways as its shields collapsed under combined fire. Mark's eyes burned with renewed hope. "They're faltering. Push forward." Eva's voice cracked, with excitement and fear. "All fighters engage." As fighters swarmed the enemy fleet, the horizon limped forward, ready to strike again. Even wounded, the little ship had sparked a turning tide, and in the heart of the Orion sector, the galaxy held its breath, watching a new legend unfold. Breaching the heart. The damaged horizon hung at the rear of the charging coalition fleet as they neared the Armada's central defense ring. Beyond the shattered Orion gate lay the heart of the Armada's territory, a cluster of fortified outposts, orbiting the star Vespra. From there, enemy supply lines fed the entire fleet. If they could take Vespra Station, the Armada's power would crumble. Captain Mark Hale watched the glittering fortresses loom ahead on the bridge's holomap. "This is it," he said. "We go in hard and fast, no faltering." Ava Ross tightened her grip on the comm console. "Our fighters are in position. Bombers standing by for the final strike." Leo Grant keyed coordinates for the drop-in point. 5 seconds to sublight. Engagement. Around them, the coalition ships split into attack squadrons. Andari cruisers rained plasma on the outer turrets. Tovan destroyers laced the shield generators with ion pulses. Mirani frigates darted in to finish off disabled vessels. The horizon lurched as secondary blasts rocked the hull. Sparks lit engineerings. Corridors and Riley Ortiz's voice crackled over the channel. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4 we're holding, but we'll need repairs once we're through this." Mark didn't flinch. "Keep us alive. We're almost at the station." Above them, the vast ring of Vespra Station filled the viewport. Its battlements bristled with heavy cannons, and massive shield pylons glowed with energy. A deafening chorus of targeting locks and lasers met the coalition advance. "Incoming fighter swarms," Eva warned. "They're defending the station's flanks." Lieutenant Mira Shaw's bomber squadron dove through the glare of gunfire. Their EMP charges fell in perfect sequence onto the shield pylons. One by one, the shields winked out, leaving large gaps shimmering against the black sky. "Shields down 50%, Mira reported. "Push through," Mark ordered. Horizon's engines flared as the ship raced toward station's docking arms. Coalition vessels poured through the gaps. Explosions blossomed along the station's hull as fighters and fighters swarmed the decks. Inside the station's central hub, Admiral Caldwell barked orders. His violet eyes flashed with rage. "Seal the inner hangars. Destroy the human invaders." But on the battle-scarred decks, soldiers from half a dozen allied races pressed forward. They fought side by side in narrow corridors. Tovan heavy infantry blasted through doors with magnetic charges. Andari engineers hacked into the station's systems to open locked doors. Human Marines led the charge, their courage shining even under heavy fire. On the Horizon's bridge, Leo's holo display lit up with boarding team icons. Alpha Team is aboard the station. They're heading for the main control core. Mark's voice was calm steel. Guide them in. Eva, prepare to cover the exit. Down below, human Marines reached the control core's anti-gravity chamber. Resistance was fierce. Armada guards in power armor fought tooth and nail. But the boarding party held their ground, using precise strikes and borrowed weapons. Back on the horizon, Riley cheered. The station's power grid is destabilizing. Now, Mark shouted. Fire all torpedoes at the station's power. Conduits. A salvo of fusion torpedoes streaked out, striking the station's hull with thunderous force. The platform shuddered violently, lights flickering as the core overloaded. Inside the control core, Admiral Caldwell watched in horror as readouts went red. Shields failing. Evacuate the station. But it was too late. With a final roar, the station's core erupted in a wave of light and debris. On the horizon, the bridge rocked as fragments of the station rained past. Through the viewport, the crew watched the fortress collapse. Mark exhaled. His green eyes shone with quiet triumph. We did it, he said softly. Eva leaned back, exhausted but smiling. Vespera Station is ours. The Armada's supply lines are cut. Outside, the Coalition fleet cheered in unison. The heart of the Armada lay in ruins, its power broken. And as the Horizon's engines primed for the jump home, Mark knew the final victory was within reach, if they could survive the last reckoning to come.